My name is Charlie, and ever since I was a child, stories have felt like secret doors, quiet, unassuming, but leading to whole worlds of imagination. I've always loved the way a single tale can carry wisdom through centuries, crossing languages and cultures, reaching people who have never met. Among all the stories I heard growing up, one that stayed with me the longest was a very old tale, The Fisherman and the Goldfish. It came from a distant land, carried in the memory of storytellers, whispered across generations. Today, I want to retell that story in my own words, not only because it is beautiful, but because it reminds me of the quiet truth that gratitude and humility can be worth more than treasure. Along the coastline of a quiet village, where the ocean breathed in long, calm waves and the wind carried the scent of salt and drifting seaweed, there lived an old fisherman. His name had long been forgotten by the villagers, for everyone simply called him the Old Man by the Shore. His house was a small wooden hut that creaked whenever the wind grew strong, and beside him lived his wife, an elderly woman with sharp eyes, a sharp tongue, and dreams far larger than their humble home. The old fisherman lived a simple life. Every morning, before the sun peeked over the horizon, he would step outside with his worn fishing net, repaired so many times that the ropes no longer matched in color or thickness. He would walk down the familiar sandy path to the sea, whispering a soft greeting to the waves as if the ocean were an old friend. The seagulls recognized him and often circled above, hoping for scraps. And when he cast his net into the water, he always did it gently, respectfully, as though he believed that kindness extended even to the sea itself. But despite his kindness, the fisherman lived in deep poverty. His catches were small. Some days he returned home with nothing but wet sand in his net. His wife often scolded him, though not because she hated her frustration, came from years of hunger, years of wishing their lives could be a little less difficult. Still, her words were harsh, and her bitterness seemed to fill the tiny house like a storm cloud that never fully disappeared. One morning, the fisherman walked along the shore earlier than usual. The sky was still dark, the stars fading slowly. The ocean glowed faintly under the moonlight, and the surface shimmered like a silver mirror. He felt something different in the air that morning, something quiet, expectant. He cast his net once. Nothing. He cast it a second time. Nothing again. On the third try, he sighed deeply, whispered a small prayer to the sea, and threw the net with all the strength his old arms still had. For a moment, the net sank silently, and the water was still. But then there was movement. The net tugged. Then it tugged again. The fisherman's heart lifted. Ah, finally, he murmured as he pulled, imagining maybe a few fish, or a crab, or perhaps even nothing more than a rock tangled in the ropes. But when he lifted the net from the water, he saw something he had never expected. Inside the net was a golden fish, not yellow like sunlight, but truly golden, shining, shimmering, glowing as if the scales were made from real gold melted by the sun. Its eyes were bright, warm, and strangely wise. And instead of flapping wildly, as most fish would do, the golden fish lay calmly in the net, watching the old man as though it understood him. Before the fisherman could process what he was seeing, something even stranger happened. The fish spoke. Its voice was gentle, almost musical, like the sound of waves touching the shore. "Old fisherman," it said, "please let me go. I am no ordinary fish. If you return me to the sea, I will grant you anything you wish." The fisherman froze. Never in his life had he heard a fish speak. Never had he imagined he would be offered a wish, or perhaps even more than one. Yet his heart, honest and humble, reacted the only way it knew how. He shook his head and smiled softly. "My dear fish," he said in a trembling voice, "I don't want anything. I have lived a long life, and I am too old to wish for treasures. Go back to the sea, be free, that is enough." And with hands that trembled slightly, not with fear, but with wonder, he lowered the golden fish carefully back into the water. It swam in a small circle around his legs, as if bowing in gratitude, then disappeared into the deep blue. The fisherman walked home that morning with a peaceful heart, not realizing that his act of kindness would soon change everything. When he returned home empty-handed, his wife was furious. "What do you mean you let a goldfish go?" she shouted. "A fish that talks? A fish that grants wishes? Old fool! Why didn't you ask for something? Anything?"